That image of yourself, where you light up every room, achieve big goals like running marathons or enter competitions, where you get up every morning and get stuff done, is closer than you think. All you actually need is clarity, a clear set of guidelines to help you through every decision that will ultimately lead to the ideal version of yourself. I personally found this through the 4 cardinal virtues, which are 4 simple rules to live by that were first used by Plato in ancient Greece and stretched all the way from old philosophies like Stoicism to religious institutions like Christianity. The beauty of them is that they're universal. They can be picked up by anyone of any age, gender, religion or time in history, and can transform you from the person you are right now to the person you always imagined you'd be. The idea that we all need values to live isn't new. However, no one really ever takes the time to think about what theirs are or even writes them down. Not only that, but who decides whether values are any good or whether they're right or wrong? In fact, studies have shown that we actually don't have any free will over our thoughts whatsoever. We actually make decisions before we are conscious of them. So how would we even know if our values are what we want them to be, let alone if they're any good? So Naval Ravikant, who's the multi-millionaire investor and philosopher, said something that struck a chord with me on, I think it was on the Joe Rogan podcast. He said that for new questions, we look for the answers in recent history. So if you want to know how planes fly, you wouldn't look past the last 50 years or 100 years. But old questions, such as how to be happy, would have been around for as long as humans have had a conscious mind. So we can go back much further to find them. Back in times of ancient Greece and the Stoics, for example. It was then that Plato released his book Republic, and he first referred to the 4 cardinal virtues, which were justice, doing the right thing, fortitude, courage, prudence, wisdom, and temperance, self-discipline. So let's dive into what they actually mean and how you can apply them into your life to be happier, more productive, and mentally resilient. So courage. Being courageous doesn't just mean physical courage like getting into fights or pushing boulders up mountains. Anyone can be courageous. I mean, just think about like Paralympians who have missing limbs that would cause some people to give up completely. But no, they have the courage to not only live their life as best as they can, but also try to push their body to its limits. Courage is also making decisions. If you take too long to come to a decision, then someone else will make it for you. That's why people say that if you don't decide how you want to live, then someone else will. Whether that's your parents, your boss, or even your friends. One of the hardest things is to speak your truth when everyone else is scared to do it. So for example, have you ever seen those sociology tests where they have an actor in a room and one non-actor? Then they ask them a simple question where all of the actors get the answer wrong. The genuine person almost always gets it wrong too, rather than give the answer that they know to be correct. Another example of this is in 1964, there was a woman murdered in New York with 38 witnesses and not one person did a thing, Kitty Genovese. So why does this happen? Because we find that going against the crowd is incredibly tough. During our evolution, abandoning our tribe meant certain death, and that wiring is still within us today. So take this as a reminder that sometimes the courageous thing is what no one else will do, but you know to be right. Justice. With courage being brave enough to do the right thing, justice is making sure it is the right thing. We all know what's right and what's not. That internal resistance you face when you gossip about someone, you cheat or you lie, it's there whether you like it or not. Of course, you won't always necessarily get it right. Morals aren't black and white. After all, why would laws be so different today than they were 100 years ago? And doing the right thing isn't always the legal thing. I mean, you wouldn't hesitate speeding to save a family member, but being just is using the rules to how people live as a guideline and assessing them alongside your own personal values to define your own personal right and wrong. So I recently wrote a Reddit post on the self-improvement channel which got a really good response. It goes into a bit more detail and I'll link to it in the description. Self-discipline. If courage is doing the hard thing and justice is doing the right thing, then self-discipline is doing them both even when you don't feel like it. We don't always want to go to the gym or work late or sit in traffic, but we do it in spite of that resistance. Being brave and just means nothing if you fall at the basic hurdles. There's a direct correlation between making your bed in the morning and your success in life. And there's also that famous study on children where you can give them one marshmallow but tell them that they'll get 2 if they wait some time. So this has actually been consistent and led to the same result in any different generation. The children who have the discipline to wait until they get that extra marshmallow become more successful than the ones who don't. Wisdom. You can be the most courageous, self-disciplined, just person in the world, but if your map of the world isn't right, it can end in disaster. Diogenes wrote of the Stoics, "Wisdom they define as the knowledge of things good and evil, and of what is neither good or evil. Knowledge of what we ought to choose, what we ought to be aware of, and what is indifferent." Essentially, wisdom is knowing what you can control and what you can't, and then using the other virtues to utilise this knowledge. So, of course, acting with courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom 24/7 is an impossible goal to reach for, but that's all it is, it's just goalposts. The Stoic would call this image the sage, someone who perfectly encompasses the 4 virtues moment to moment. But they also knew that this person didn't exist and it's impossible for them to, and that is just something to have in mind to aim for. We are all fallible human beings that make mistakes, but having these 4 virtues in mind, hopefully those mistakes will be few and far between. Thank you so much for watching. If you took any value at all from this video, I'd really appreciate if you could hit the like button and comment below if there's any videos you'd like to see. I post weekly videos on building discipline and an unbreakable mindset. If you're looking to improve your life, then hit the subscribe button and join the community. I've also released a free playbook for getting your life together. It takes you through the step-by-step process that I use for going from anxious and lazy to fulfilled and productive. It's completely free, so grab it while you can. It's the first link in the description. I really appreciate you watching this till the end, and I'll see you in the next one.